the Spot Track Podcast, talking sports contracts, the salary cap, and business of sports.
Today's edition of the Spot Track Podcast is presented by Authentic Audio Productions. Visit AuthenticAudioPro.com right now to elevate your podcast. Professional tools, professional people, professional services, A to Z. Get yourself up and running from start or elevate what you already have into a more professional setting. There's content creation, everything you need to sound better, look better, up those subscriptions, keep yourself more of an option with the 2, 3, 4 million podcasts that now exist. It's time to get going with AuthenticAudioPro.com. My name is Mike Ginnitti. I was going to take today off, and there's just too much NFL news to not at least speak to some of this. So I'm going to give Brandon the Thursday off. We'll retouch back with him next Thursday. But I will try to fly through some of this, not so much breaking news, but notable NFL contract stuff, right? It's mostly about the holdouts right now. We're in training camp. So the news isn't so much about who's practicing and who's playing and what plays are being made. It's who's not there or who's standing there in street clothes and why and what does it mean. And then usually it all comes back to money. You know how this works. So that's why we do what we do. I'm going to go through, I believe, 3 names. I've got 4 here. 2 of them are really just kind of negotiation stuff. There was one bigger extension over the past 24 hours, which I'll speak to at the back end of this. But let's start with Amari Cooper. It's the name we've been talking about since December because he led the roster bubble list. I assumed Cleveland was just going to get younger and cut ties with most of their veteran, honestly, most of their veteran assets. Nick Chubb coming off that injury, I wasn't sure they were going to try to reclaim that. They have. They restructured his contract, brought him back. It seems like he's putting in the work to get back to full health. That's obviously good news for them. When that happened, I didn't think Amari Cooper had a chance to stick on his 1 year, $20 million expiring contract. Here we are. He did enough publicly to at least get them interested. And whatever he said behind the scenes got them to this point. Here's what it is. It's not an extension. It's not a raise, at least not yet. He's looking for that $20 million to become fully guaranteed a little bit early. He got that. He got $19 million of that converted to a signing bonus today, which leaves a minimum 1.21 salary for the upcoming season. So that's step 1. And he got $5 million of incentives. Now, we don't have any kind of breakdown as to what those mean. Are any of them likely to be earned? I assume they're not likely to be earned. You know, they're at that threshold right above where he produced in 2023, which, is he in decline? Is he sharing the wealth too much? Did Deshaun Watson's injury impact him? Of course, all of the above. He played in 15 games last year, caught 72 passes, 1,250 yards receiving, 5 touchdowns. That's all good. I mean, the 1,250 was a career high for him. The 72 is top 5 for him. Is he one of those, loose stats kind of guys? I don't think so, but he has bounced around. It's been Dallas, it's been the Raiders, it's been Cleveland. He's also finished out contracts, and he's about to do that again. Again, not a renegotiation, really just the late July contract restructure, cap conversion. Like I said, $19 million of salary turned to signing bonus, incentives added, which I don't believe impact the salary cap yet. But, and this has been the topic du jour since this all got announced, there's now $22.5 million dead cap sitting in next season, which is a voidable year. He's set to hit free agency March 12th. We don't yet have the void date. However, we do know that the Browns added dummy salaries to these void years. And the only reason to do that, well, I should say it this way. One of the main reasons to do that is to allow this contract to enter the 2025 league year on March 12th, 4 p.m. Eastern. And then you have options. Okay. So I'm going to assume, because of the dummy salaries, that the void date is after March 12th, that this contract is going to still exist at the turn of the 2025 league year, which allows the Browns to designate him a post-June 1st release. My guess is that's plan A right now. Okay. We don't believe this is a player we're going to keep past 2024. However, he's in our 2024 plans. So let's make it cap friendlier for us. Let's hand him the money that he's asking for in lieu of a contract extension, which was his plan A. And now let's give ourselves the ability to take that $22.5 million, designate him a post-June for release, which sets him free. Okay, he goes back to the open market then essentially immediately. And we split that dead cap into $7.5 million in 2025, $15 million for 2026 when the salary cap is what, $280, super doable, super tenable. That's probably the path we're walking down right now. Now, look, we've had plenty of teams, none bigger than the Denver Broncos decide the salary cap is in our favor right now. Let's just take this whole damn thing on right now, all at once. And $22.5 million is a middle of the road cap hit for, a number one option, which is essentially what he has been in Cleveland for the past 2 seasons. They did acquire Jerry Jeudy. They have made some draft picks. There's some up and comers. David Njoku was a big time breakout receptionist for them last year. And I expect the balance of power will shift more across the board and less in Amari Cooper's favor. So you can read this a bunch of ways, right? To me, the incorrect way to read this is, everybody's playing ball. He's going to be on this team next year. They're going to extend him. That voice stuff's not going to matter. That's plan Z right now, in my opinion, because if that were the plan, you just extend him right now. You get ahead of all the other wide receiver contracts that are still about to come over the next 9 months, 10 months. And you do this right now before he hits 31 years old. And who knows? That didn't happen. We got a cap conversion. And we got a situation where they can get out of a contract next year in a variety of ways. Is he a trade candidate? Let's say his role in Cleveland reduces so much over the first 8 weeks of the season that by week 9, which is the trade deadline, he decides he's going to put himself on the trade block publicly. I need to get out of here. I don't even want to be here to finish the season. I want my next contract to start right now. I want to be on a team that I think will extend me. Will he have that opportunity? Look, he's on a minimum salary right now, and yes, the Browns have just eaten $19 million in terms of a signing bonus. So do they want to start the post June 1st process in 2024? That's that's a lot to bite off. All right. Sure. You'll free up $600,000 of cash to send him to a new team at the deadline. And that new team will be thrilled, right, with that for a rental package. But will somebody give up enough draft compensation to essentially, at that point in time, 9 weeks from now, justify the Browns handing him $19 million for this season and then getting a couple of later mid-round draft picks for him? It's possible. I'm not going to rule it out. And again, he can raise a stink himself come week 8 if it gets to that point. But more than not, my assumption is he's going to play out 2024 as a Brown. They're going to post June 1st him, like Michael Thomas just had happen with the Saints. He's going to hit free agency, and he'll be a commodity as long as he's not injured or completely falls off the cliff here over the next couple of months. He should join T. Higgins, who's in a different but similar spot, as notable names to hit the 2025 market if all of this goes as we think it's about to go. So again, it's a cap conversion. There's an incentive package, which we're going to dive into when we get it. We'll see if he's going to be qualified for that. I would assume that they constructed that in a way that maybe 1 or 2 million of that is doable, but not yet likely. And they freed up 15 million of cap space this year. By the way, they were in the threes of top 51 cap space. So this is a move that certainly helps them for the rest of the summer. I don't believe it means they're going to go add. Now, maybe they'll add. There's still some names out there, Justin Simmons being the big one. It's possible they add. It's possible that they do nothing. This is considered, insurance cap for the trade deadline for the season. There's tons of adjustments that have to be made in season. And then, of course, you can roll over to next year and offset some of that voidable dead cap that's going to hit, whether that's all at once or as a post 6-1 split. Trent Williams. This one sort of caught us off guard. I think it caught a lot of people off guard, but it only took me 35 seconds to read the contract to understand where we are right now. This guy's 36 years old. He's a superstar. He's an all-pro. He was the number 1 rated left tackle according to PFF last year, despite age, despite missing some games to injury. He's been relatively healthy. All right. He's averaging 14 games a season over the last five years. And that's for a mid-30s guy. That's not for a 20-something in his prime. So he's got a lot of things going for him, clearly. many people jumped at the fact that there's 3 years, over $77 million left in this contract, which is great money. That's $25 million a year, for this player, for this position, for this team. It's been a very polarizing team from an Ayuk standpoint, from a Purdy standpoint, from a McCaffrey standpoint, even going back to the Super Bowl, a Dre Greenlaw standpoint, right? There's just a lot of moving parts. And this is now the new one. And this one, again, it took me no time to understand what's happening here. There's no guarantees left. This is a larger version, no pun intended, of what Christian McCaffrey just went through. And Christian McCaffrey was handled properly, in a nice way, in a judicious way, in a professional, sophisticated way. And guess what? He plays for the same team as Trent Williams. So agent and player looking around and say, well, that guy just got this done. Why don't we get the same thing done with us? All right. McCaffrey had 3 years and just over $36 million left on his contract. No guarantees. Okay. What he earned was a $4 million raise this year and a full guarantee, and a $4 million raise next year with half of it fully guaranteed. That's McCaffrey. That exact template can be applied to Trent Williams. All right. Because here's what exists for Williams. It's $21 million this year, $23 million next year, and $33 million in 2026. And if you've heard me speak at all before, that $33 million is the fluffiest of fluff. All right. That's a red light special fluffy salary. So we can absolutely pull 8 to 10 million out of that sucker, pump it into this year, pump it into next year, make him a $25 million player this year, maybe 26 this year, 26 next year, fully guarantee everything in 2024 right now, and 50% guarantee everything in 2025 right now. And maybe by April 1st, which is a date that San Francisco uses for their contract triggers, maybe by April 1st, 2025, all of it in 2025 becomes fully guaranteed. Why am I putting in so much emphasis on this player? Well, I gave you his resume, right? This is also the starting left tackle on a Super Bowl contender. And if you're going to pay Brock Purdy, and I believe they're going to have to, there's a small portion of me that thinks they never will. And San Francisco is going to be the team that just becomes a revolving door with quarterbacks because of Kyle Shanahan's system. But I'm gonna err on the side of reason and logic and trend, which is that they're going to pay Brock Purdy next year. So if you're going to lock him into, let's just even say, a 3-year guarantee, you better have year one figured out on the offensive line. And that starts with, even if he's 37-year-old Trent Williams. So for all of these reasons, all of these bullet points, this should be a pretty simple one. And again, it's a carbon copy of what you've just done with Christian McCaffrey on a bigger level. So we're taking 12 from McCaffrey and making it 16. We're taking 21 from Trent Williams and making it 25 or 26. And we're just lighting that up for 2024, fully guaranteed. And then the big reason, right? This is less about 2024 for Trent Williams and much more about next year. The big thing is, how much can we lock in right now for this player next season? That's what he wants to know. That's what the agent wants to know. And again, you started at 50%. Williams is starting at 100. He wants 2 years fully guaranteed, maybe 2 for 50. But you've done 50% next year with McCaffrey. That's a logical place to start for Trent Williams. And then you go from there with, outside of Ayuk and Greenlaw, who's going to need some sort of re-up if they want to keep him after this rehab. It's a pretty intact roster going forward. Yes, they're going to have to make some decisions because contenders with quarterback contracts and wide receiver contracts and left tackle contracts and edge defender contracts, which they have, they have to turn people over. But for the most part, this roster is intact this year, is intact next year. These little small adjustments are part of the process to keeping the band together. And I expect this one to get done in the next week or so. Courtland Sutton. Remember this? Remember like 3 months ago? I kind of haphazardly, jokingly, sarcastically came on here and said, Courtland Sutton has requested an extension or a trade out of Denver. And it was in the middle of the Russell Wilson atom bomb, right? like the world in Denver was crumbling around the buyout, the dead cap. They were cutting people left and right. They had traded Jerry Jeudy. Everything was crumbling. And Courtland Sutton's basically saying, I want an extension. Not only do I want to be here, I want more money to be here because, it's kind of like being a Colorado Rocky to kind of bring proximity into it. If I'm going to stay in this ballpark as a pitcher, you're going to have to give me 15% more than the Yankees would give me in Yankee Stadium, or, the Dodgers would give me at Dodger Stadium. There's a premium that comes with good player, bad team. And I think he was trying to bank off that. It was ridiculous timing. He's coming off an utterly bad season to do this with, right? He is asking somebody to buy low on him at the worst time possible. And shocking, it didn't work. All right. He got himself $1.5 million of incentives. I will promise you none of those are likely to be earned. There's no renegotiation. It's still a 2-year remaining contract. So for now, he's still earning $13.6 million. And he can bring that over $15 million if he maxes out these incentives. That's all we know. And that's more than I expected. I didn't expect the trade because I don't think there's many suitors out there based on the resume he's built over the past year and a half. And I didn't expect a renegotiation of any degree. So here we are. He's a trade candidate. He will remain a trade candidate through the next, the first 9 weeks of the season. However, I'm not sure he's going to have the quarterback to support any kind of production. So if he's not wanted now, how is he going to be wanted over the first 8 weeks of the season? And oh, by the way, his deadline salary is $6.5 million. So is Denver going to be in the process of retaining even more salary? Right? We know what they paid Russ the $39 million. Are they going to retain, $5 million of that to bring it down to a tenable trade number to buy themselves a couple of draft picks? It's not bad business. I'm not saying that's not a process they shouldn't be going down because for all intents, outside of Sean Payton, this is a rebuilding team. They're not paying Patrick Surtain yet. They traded Jerry Jeudy. There's a lot of moving parts, but they're bolstering the offensive line. They think Bo Nix is a player. Sutton's a perfectly plausible middle of the pack weapon, but he's not an ace. And I don't think they have an ace on their roster just yet. Javonte Williams is a trade, maybe a bust candidate for 2024 based on injuries, unfortunately. They're trying to revolving door quite a few position groups right now on the fly because of the contract they've given Sean Payton and the power they've given Sean Payton. So it's a fascinating yin and yang that's happening right now. And we know this is a purge year for them financially with what they have to do with Russell Wilson and the decision they made to take all of it on this year. So we know that's where they are. It's much less impactful next year. They'll have the ability to maneuver a little bit, but will they get enough of a window to see players like Courtland Sutton, Bo Nix, etc., Javonte Williams even, to know that retaining their services in 2025 or building big around Bo Nix is the right decision? This is just setting everything up for failure. So for Sutton to get something is better than nothing. It's more than I anticipated, but it was just a weird timing, right? I mean, it was the world is crumbling around me and I'm looking for a raise. It was just weird, but I guess kudos to him. He got something out of nothing. Christian Darrisaw, left tackle for the Minnesota Vikings. Speaking of a little bit of give and take, this is one of the more fascinating teams this offseason. They let Kirk Cousins walk, as we all know. He's now fully recovered and on the Atlanta Falcons practice field with that $100 million guaranteed and our rookie first-round quarterback Sandy next to him. Danielle Hunter also out, got a basically fully guaranteed 2-year contract to join the Texans. And they sort of swapped edge defenders. Hunter to Houston, Jonathan Greenard back to Minnesota on, competing guaranteed contracts, but big deals for Justin Jefferson, a big deal for Christian Darrisaw here, which we'll dive into. And then, of course, selecting J.J. McCarthy and probably slow playing him in with Sam Darnold. And then I think Jordan Addison was supposed to be a big step-up guy. We'll see if he's suspended for his traffic violation, let's put it that way. But moving pieces, a bit of structure. I can tell you right now, this team is picked to be last in this division. There's just not enough faith in the quarterback position and maybe not enough faith in some of the defensive positions. But I do think as a rebuild on the fly goes, this is not a disaster. There's a chance that maybe halfway through this season, or even, looking at them next March, it's a team that we like. There's promise with McCarthy at some point in time. Certainly the Addison Jefferson combo could really step up in a big way. And I'm leaving Hawkinson out of this. I shouldn't be. There's a lot to look at here. Let's put it that way. And if not, right, if they really are dead last and maybe some things are just tanking out of the gate, there's trade pieces here. There are players on this roster that teams will want, whether it's midseason, whether it's in the offseason. So expect them to be active in some capacity over the next 10 months or so. But they did not sit on their hands, right? There was a time where Justin Jefferson's contract never happens, that he is a trade candidate, that they are renting him out, right, before he finishes arbitration, a big talking point in baseball right now. That didn't happen. He agreed to a massive, massive contract that we dove into, and now left tackle Darrisaw, just as big, just as massive, not quite as big as the agent wanted us to believe out of the gate. It was reported as a 4 for 113. It's a 4 for 104, and there's $9 million of incentives that he's going to have to work sort of hard for. It's 90% playing time, Pro Bowl berth, and first or second team All-Pro. So we'll see. There's a chance he gets that, every couple of years, but I wouldn't think that's an annual tradition with this player. There's just too much competition in the NFC for things like that. However, he did get $43.7 million fully guaranteed at signing, another 15 next year, another 8 the year after that. This is 4 for 75 out of the gate. That's the practicality of it. So, if I tell you he's making 43 over the next 2 seasons and was set to make 20, that's a win, especially if you include a franchise tag price into that. This is a 25-year-old kid, one of the stars left tackles in all of football. Minnesota's buying basically exactly where they should be. After year 3, they exercise that 5th-year option and then tacked on 4 years. So this is a 6-year, $122.5 million contract for full term, and signing bonus, option bonus structure to keep really the next 3 cap hits super tenable: 6-4, 10-4, 23 through 2026. So you plug that in with Jefferson's multi-bonus structure and his low cap hits, with JJ McCarthy's obvious rookie contract value, with Jordan Addison's obvious rookie contract value, and you're getting somewhere. Like I said, as in terms of rebuilds on the fly, this one looks pretty good on paper, but I know Vegas is very down on them, and it's a see it to believe it situation with the quarterback position in Minnesota. But you love to see this. You love to see core positions, core players getting the numbers they deserve in a structure they deserve, and teams paying in the timeline that is appropriate for these positions. And what I'm trying to do is talk about the Cowboys without talking about the Cowboys, because I'm all talked out on the Cowboys. So we're done. We're done with that. But you know what I'm saying. Left tackle paid after year 3 to a top of the market contract. Love to see it. Let's finish with the Olympics. They are underway, even though the opening ceremonies are tomorrow. I did a quick medal thing. It's funny. This fascinates me every 2 years, because I go through and I see some data and I see some content, and then I end up doing some research, and the USA consistently gets crushed for their medal payouts. All right. Here's what it is in 2024. Every gold medalist will receive $37,500, except for track and field. If you earn a gold medal in track and field, you will get $87,500, because there's a world athletics bonus of $50,000. Every silver medalist will get $22,500, and every bronze medalist will get $15,000. The top medal payout for just the gold medals, because I didn't want to go too deep on this, is Singapore. Singapore pays their gold medalist $737,500. Okay. So on the surface, I thought to myself, well, that's a fairly rich country. I had a friend live there for quite some time. There's a lot of money, especially in the downtown area. It's just one of those diamonds in the rough kind of areas. Maybe this makes sense. So I backed up this list that I put together of the top gold medal payouts by country with how many gold medals these countries have actually handed out. Take a guess how many gold medals Singapore has handed out in history. Not like over the past decade, not since they initiated the $737,000 payout, in history. So like 1920 through 2024. The answer is 1. Okay. And that 1 happened in 2016 at the Rio de Janeiro Olympics. 1 all time. How many gold medals has the USA handed out? 1,179. Okay. They've handed out 3,000 medals, gold, silver, and bronze in their Olympic tenure. And yes, I'm using Wikipedia for this, so bear with me if those numbers are off. Obviously, there's a big difference. And obviously, you have to curve the scale based on, predicted output. So Thailand and Singapore and Hong Kong, who sit at the top of this gold medal payout list, are banking on the fact, right? They're gambling that not a heck of a lot of their athletes are about to win gold. Whereas the United States at 37,500, they know they're handing out, at least 12 to the women's basketball team. And, a few more in track and field and a plenty more in swimming and maybe a whole team's worth in gymnastics. And, they're hedging their bets. They know exactly what's about to come here because they've got data to back it up and predictions. And sure, that's all built into this stuff. The IOC isn't stupid. The IOC knows what they're talking about. The IOC has used some math. Let's land on that. The IOC has used some math to get to this number, to understand exactly what their bonus pool is, to bring it back to baseball a little bit, and understand that, look, on every 2 years, winter and summer, we have X amount that we can hand out to our athletes. We expect this many medals. We expect this many golds. We expect this many silvers. It's all mathematical. So even the Olympics comes down to money. Color, nobody shocked. So that is on Twitter or on X, along with a lot more of this NFL stuff. And of course, our trade deadline piece for Major League Baseball, which is now 5 days away, is live on Spotrac.com. Keith Smith has been pumping out end of NBA off-season look back pieces, recap pieces, and already some look ahead pieces. There's been some trades to discuss. He's got pieces on those. Taylor Vincent, our NWSL correspondent, has been absolutely crushing all the women's soccer news. And if you think it's not important, there are franchise purchases, there are manager changes, there are impactful injuries for Olympics. She is just diving into everything contractual, transactional, and top down. Like I said, from franchise changes to, Apple's buying in, right? Or excuse me, Disney is buying in to the NWSL. So if you think it's just the WNBA and some of these other women's sports that are blowing up, this is a thing. This is now a trend, a thing. There's viable money in investing in women's professional sports. This is not going away. This is going to grow. It's why, a week ago, we talked about how the WNBA's growth from a TV and a streaming standpoint is excellent, but they don't believe it's even half enough. And I think they have legs to justify it. So plenty to get to, plenty to read on Spotrac.com right now. Plenty more to come. For Scott Allen, my name is Mike Ginnitti. Thanks for listening to this edition of the Spotrac Podcast.